Welcome to It's Your Life, Own It. My name is Marissa Bluto, and I am the editor-in-chief of Own It magazine and publishing company. And I'm so excited to be here with you today. This is Motivational Moments with Marissa and the Own It contributing writer team. Today, we're going to be talking about, and throughout this month, we're going to be talking about men, them and how they show up as fathers, our own experience in life with our own fathers, um, their impact, our men's impact, their influence, and also their needs. And so we have today we have our contributing writer Nathaniel. He's going to be representing the men's perspective. Although he's not all men, he's at least giving us some insight in this panel discussion today in regards to our men. We want to support our men. We want to make sure that they're healthy so that they live a prosperous and wealthy life and fulfilling life. So taking center stage and owning it with me is Teresa Palmer, Coach Tiffany, Nathaniel X. Ross, and is Jacqueline Lulu Brown, but we're going to give her a minute to get together and join us. And so, Teresa, how are you doing? Did you have a good weekend?
I did. Everything is good. I hope
Yeah.
everyone else had a good weekend and raring to go about men. So I think it's an interesting topic and health wise, one that needs a little bit more discussion.
Yes, it does. And we want our men to know that we love them, and we are vying for them, and we to be whole, healthy, healed, and flourishing in life. We talk a lot about women. We talk about our issues, and we have our group discussions. We have our girlfriends. And what I have found as a common thread is that even though men have friends, they're really not having the needful conversations that are supportive in helping them to be transparent about what they're going through. I've even heard statistics, and I'm not going to say what they are because I didn't do that today. There's a men committing suicide. There's a lot going on with them in regards to their emotional health, and so really want to just encourage them through these kind of conversations and these discussions to listen. You're worth it. You're worth having that necessary conversation. You're worth, swallowing the pride or the ego or the shame, putting the shame to shame, and go and get the help that you need. Because the minute that you do that, you'll start and the minute that you start feeling better, all the rest of that stuff won't matter. And so I'm going to, as we are a full lady house, we are full house of women, I am going to let Nathaniel share a little bit about what's on his mind as we enter into this month of June. And we're focusing on men and what their needs are. So, Nathaniel, are you ready to give any of your thoughts? He's coming into, he's with us here from Thailand.
Yes, new location. Um, so yeah, I think with Father's Day coming up, and just the discussion in general about men, we need to have some frank, open, honest conversation, and we need to move away from the lip service of we love our men, we support our men, because right now it's lip service. The action behind it, and I'm sure we'll get more into the meat of this as we start talking, is that the way in which women say that they love us and that they support us is not being shown to us. We don't feel it, we don't experience it, and we become isolated. And like you said, we do have conversation. We tend to have conversations with other men, but conversations with men tend to be pretty general, and it really doesn't go into depth. Now, that doesn't mean that there are non-existence out there, because I belong to a men's group and we do have those in-depth conversations. But in general, that's not happening, and as a result of that, there's this battle now between men and women, which doesn't make any sense because we need each other in order to be healthy and in order to survive. So that's my opening thoughts with that.
Yeah, well, hey, you got to be real, right? In order for us to heal, you have to be real. And
Yes.
there's a plight there. The plight is that women say that they're supportive, but it's not feeling like you're not feeling that support. And there's always going to be two stories. The one thing that I always said when it comes to this is it's important to kill that, men are from Venus and no, women are from Venus and men are from Mars. The minute that you say that we're so far separated that and we're so far different, that's the witch. So when we start having the content of the conversation turn more towards we can communicate, we can share information, we can respect one. I think that that gives it more, more hope of us ever recovering. Because if we always talk about the divide, we never talk about the common ground. Men are different. I mean, men think different, and women think different. Well, then we always feel like we should be different. So I'm gonna go around the room with the women and say, hey, well, what are your thoughts about that, and how are we going to improve our way of showing up for our men? I want to start with Coach Tiffany.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Marissa. It is always wonderful to be in the Own It house. You know what? I really feel that communication is everything, and I think that sometimes there's a shutdown there, and we need to be just open, and be able to. I feel that don't get me wrong, excuse me, girls, but we put walls up very quickly a lot of times because we are such emotional beings, and we I think don't allow our men to tap into their emotional side. We all have that feminine and masculine energy, and we need to kind of find that balance, but we need to understand both energies. My husband has a lot of feminine energy in him, and he and I can now, as I'm tapping into that other side of my energy, we're starting to find that balance. And that's really what it is. It's about that communication and learning your energies. That's my take on it. Right now. So thank you again. So, and I
Yeah,
know
it is.
Lulu's gonna have something to say about the energies as well. So I see her down there.
Yeah, it's so important for you to. My biggest thing when it comes to couples, my biggest thing is communication and friendship. When you're not looking at the person as with a title, in the sense that this is someone I really, really care about. Let's remove the titles. This is a person in front of me that I really genuinely care about and love, and I want to make sure that person is okay. It's that's where I believe that effective communication can begin when there's no hidden agenda on any part, any sides, and then also to an openness and allowing people to be true to themselves. Right? Sometimes there's going to be things that are said that we don't understand, we can't relate to, but it's not necessarily always for us to fix that person's problems. Sometimes we need to learn when it's a time to just sit and allow them to really, really vent going on with them. Sometimes we don't allow the space of venting. We think like, okay, we need to, we need to show up in life, either being very strong all the time. We don't need to say certain things, but in a very intimate relationship, there needs to be that space. That's mental health. You stuff goes into our system. So when we experience something, that's going into our body, our mind, our spirit, soul, how we are seeing things as a result of it. If we are not allowed that space to truly communicate to at least one person how we're really, really feeling, then that's where the blockade comes in. It's like, well, I can't tell this person, I can't tell that person, and I can't be honest with you, especially when it comes to the love relationship and that partnership. If I can't tell you, then where am I going to tell? And that's where that state of hopelessness comes in. There's nowhere to go. And I think that as a general theme, we don't really allow people to vent. And if we do, we are hearing them vent, we get so frustrated so fast. We don't want to hear all of that. We don't want to hear that, we got enough on our own plate. And then we shut them down because we don't find value in allowing them the space to vent. And then we think that we got to fix the problem. And sometimes they're fixing it just by venting. Them, if you hear them all the way out, just shut, calla de la boca, be quiet, and just allow them to vent at
That piece of
what
advice,
they're experiencing. Mhm.
that piece of advice you just gave is priceless. And I'll tell all the women that's listening out there, from a man's perspective, just keep quiet and let him say what he's got to say. Let him finish whatever it is he has to say before you open your mouth or before you try to fix it. Because otherwise, we're going to shut down.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would just say, as we have these conversations, for women to understand that, um, we want to express ourselves, we want to be heard, but we don't want to fight. We don't want the stress. We don't want the confrontation. As men, we have to go out and confront the world every day. And that's not to say that women don't, but as a man, we have to confront the world. We don't want to come home and have to confront our significant other and put up with the same stuff at home that we're putting out in the world.
And believe it or not, it's just women feel the same way. I mean, the exact same way. I'm not confrontational. In fact, I'm not good with confrontation, and not because I want to avoid it. Is I'm very sharp, and so I don't want to have conflict. I want resolution. Either I can be quiet and listen and not hurt and because I don't want you fixing my problems either. The reason why I know to be quiet is because that's the exact same thing I want. So that's how I know. I know this because I this is what I would want. I just want sometimes somebody to just listen. Don't rescue me. I'm not a damsel in distress. I just feel like saying what I gotta say, and I just want to say it. And I don't want your I don't necessarily want your feedback at the moment. And then we got to know timing too. I'm going to digress because I want to bring Lulu into the conversation. And so, Lulu, I want you to come in. I know you've been sitting and start where you are. But I know for me, I know over the years, the biggest thing is sometimes I'm very transparent. So I just want to say what's been on my mind. I want to be honest and truthful. And I would offer the same space to a male friend,
Yeah.
lover. I would offer that same space because I know that that's what I would want. I don't want confrontation.
I think Tiffany and Nathaniel summed up what I was going to say. And so I'm going to come from and put a little different perspective because we are talking about fathers as well. And when we look at this battle between men and women, the roots, what are the roots? And the roots go back to generation from generation from generation. Ideologies that have been handed down, everything from religious ideology, roles. This is your role. Excuse me. This is your role. And when we look, we're just imploding because nothing has really worked. And people are afraid to just take and throw it all out and say, you know what? For me and my children's father, we're going to start out with what works for us and leave the traditions, leave what your pastor said and how he interpreted. I know I'm going to hit some stuff here, but leave how all of these different ideologies are thrown at us and say, well, what is going to work for us? And when two people can say what's going to work for them. And the other key piece, when I talked about generations, when we look at women, women tend to bring home what their father was. Not all the time, but when we talk about fathers, there's a sort of minimizing that mothers are so important in children's lives. Well, it's important for the mother to the son and the daughter, but we minimize the critical role that the father plays. Because when women, boys, and girls mature, that impression that they had with their father, that is who and what they are going to bring home. They're going to normalize whatever it is that they experience. They're going to normalize that. So in addition to throwing all these roles and rules out, we can't minimize the critical importance of fathers. There are a lot of successful people that have come from single mom homes. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. I'm not trying to take any woman's strength away from her. But if we are going to buy into, and I'm going to say, the big lie that is continuing to bring division, that I can do this all by myself and I don't need a man and I don't need a father. I can do it all. We're going to end up with we're going to perpetuate this dysfunction that we see today that Nathaniel described. We're going to see feminine energy in a masculine toxic state. Hear me and hear me good. When Tiffany talked about the balance, but when a woman is in that role and we are minimizing the importance of the father, we are all the way at the masculine spectrum where it says toxic. And so until we really accept the fact that while we don't want to take anything away from mothers and women for what they accomplish, we cannot minimize the importance of fathers. We need those fathers. And for those that are doing what needs to be done, we commend them. And the last thing is, we cannot denigrate our fathers in front of our children, in front of anyone. We can't denigrate. If you've got an opinion, some opinions are best kept to yourself. Vent it out to you, but don't vent it out in front of your children and other young women, because believe it or not, you are putting something in their psyche. And it may be in the subconscious now, but it comes to the consciousness depending on what triggers it. I yield the mic back to you, Marissa.
All right, so I love it. And
Words
so
of wisdom.
you said something very important. And one thing for me, and then I'm going to shift over to Teresa. One thing many years ago that was very important to me was to recognize my parents, both my mom and my dad, recognize their imperfections. One thing about my personality, I see things is I always look at the cup half full. So I take the good and the bad I discard, right? So with my parents, I forgave them very early on, where I felt like they didn't meet it. I will discuss about it. I will talk about, what I wish I could have had from my parents, or what I recognized had if it had been done differently, how I would have different results. I do recognize that. But one thing is very critical is that you have to, and you have to recognize, just like you said, go back and see generationally where this came from, because it's learned behavior. It's learned through observation and modeling. That's why in the article this month, I had a real candid talk with women and said, we have got to stop modeling this behavior in front of not just our girls, but in front of the boys, the young men as well. Because children, people learn through observation. They learn through a model. What are they seeing? Not what you're telling, like Nathaniel said, with lip service, but what are you demonstrating before them? Because that's the conviction of your heart. What you do is what you really buy into. And we need our leaders. Our men are our leaders, and we need them. We need them. Our world is the way it is because our men are in the condition that they are. We get our men right, everything else lines up. What does it say? As the head goes, so does the body. It is really important for us to get our men where they need to be so that they can lead effectively. And that we can see the results. We can see the ripple effect of their impact and their influence. And right now, we're in conflict. And because we're in conflict, their performance is impeded. They're not where they're maximizing their performance and impact and effect on the world in a healthy way. And so this is why it's critically important for us to this not to be lip service. It's all about ability to get in alignment. And so I'm going to go over to Teresa. Share, Teresa, your perspective, your insight. And the one thing I do want to say is this: is that my dad's influence, my parents' influence, I allow it. I allow everything that they were supposed to give to me to make me a better person. And one thing that my dad did do for me is that as a little girl, we always had candid conversations. He allowed me to speak my truth. He allowed me who I am. And that's why I understand how to be quiet. You don't always have to be the one talking. Be quiet and listen and feel the room, feel the audience, feel the person who's talking to you and get connected where they are, not you. Where are they? If you want results, it's not about you. You got to feel the room and be cognizant of the room and then based on where the room begin to respond accordingly. And that's one thing that that's why I can't get mad at his imperfections. I have to be so thankful and get the wisdom that I was meant to get from him, so that I don't miss out on it. And the same thing that we need to do with our experiences. We need to be looking at these experiences instead of throwing them out, looking at what value can I get from this? How can I become a better person and be more effective in how I show up? Teresa, you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And with I'm going to kind of approach this from the health perspective because one of the things that's crucial to health is our emotions. And that's feeling the emotions and processing our emotions. And we don't always do that. And that's one thing that causes chronic stress is because we don't allow ourselves time to sit with emotions. We don't allow ourselves time to express emotions. Especially, I think, with men, they feel that they can't show any emotions, that they have to be stoic. I've seen it all the time in health, where men fail to take care of themselves, even physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because they feel that if they show any emotion, if they even think about their bodies, it's kind of weakness. And what I mean is that if there's something going on with them, men think about their bodies in terms of strength. How strong can they be? What their form looks like, their physical form. But when it comes to their health, they're not always in tune with what goes on with their body. They don't listen to the signals because they feel that they have to be stoic. And I've seen that so much in cardiology with chest pain that I've had men literally with chest pain 3 and 4 days that will finally come into an office or finally come into an emergency room because it's reached a point where they're having trouble dealing with it. I think the second thing is also that as women, we tend to want to take care of everybody and we fail to recognize a lot of times that we are each responsible for ourselves. And I know that that's a dialogue that hasn't been the most popular over the past few years, that we've been kind of told that we are responsible for everyone, we have to take care of everyone, but that's not true. Everyone is responsible for themselves. And I think when we understand that we have this responsibility, that we have our own personal power, and that we do have the power to take charge of our health and our well being, that once we step into that power, we realize that we don't have to take care of everyone else. We don't have to, I hate to use the word dominate because I don't think that's the right word, but we don't have to be overbearing. I think that's the right word, is overbearing with other people. That we could we could give them their space and we could let them make decisions. And sometimes in health they may not make the decisions we want them to make. But at the same time, it's their choice, it's their decision. And that's probably one of the toughest things in healthcare, is when somebody makes a decision that is right for them. It may not be the popular decision and it may not be what we want to hear, but overall it's still their decision. So, what I would say with regard to health is, number one, feel emotions, recognize them. Good, bad, or ugly, they're emotions. We need to sit with them, we need to deal with them. Nobody needs to be happy all the time. And that facade of being happy all the time is actually more detrimental to us because we're not being authentically who we are. And the second thing is to communicate. I think that's also a problem. And men tend to not really express their emotions like women do. You know, they have a tendency to more hold it back. So if we could develop relationships, if we could find somebody safe that we could talk to about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and if we could get in tune with our body and recognize when something is not right, then that is our triad for good health. And I think these conversations are so necessary. And I'm glad that we're talking about that. About that, you know, that we are different. We all have masculine and feminine energy. And it's not that if you're a female, you have masculine energy, you're masculine. It has nothing to do with gender. It just has to do with the energy, the energy of being quiet, the energy of more being out there. Those two energies together, and that's what creates human beings. And when you look at animals, they're not masculine or feminine. They really don't even have a gender. It's the energies that they possess. They possess these two energies. So I think it's less about gender and more about energy.
Right. Because everyone, like now today, it's different than what it used to be, where, you did have, maybe you did, because I wasn't here, all the years. I've only been here 55 years. So I've only been here. But you're seeing that I'm not confrontational. In fact, I don't really be bothered with all of that. I like a drama-free life. I don't do a bunch of women because I don't like all of that. I just like to chill out. And so I stand against saying don't sign, because today we're different. Like today we're I know I'm not the one. I like to be quiet, even though people think I like to talk a lot. No, I don't. If I want to make a point, I'm gonna make the point. But I prefer to be quiet and relax. You hear how quiet it is in my space. I like that. And so we need to begin to start looking at people, humans, and dealing with one another in care. I mean, we have tapped into so much today, and we have a whole month ahead of us that will go kind of fast. Believe it or not, it's gonna go fast. That's just the season we are in. Time has escalated, but this has been a great conversation. This, first start of the month to tapping into, and I know you guys are going to resonate about all that we said, and going to build on that as we continue throughout this month, going live and sharing. But I want to make a declaration. This is not lip service. My heart screams for us to help and encourage our men. And it is my heart's desire as the editor in chief and the driving force of us coming together like this on a regular basis. It is my heart's compassion to say, I want to see our men healthy, especially as a single woman. Listen, I need a man, I need him healthy. I said, I don't want nobody broken. As long as you're on your journey to getting healed, and I don't want, so it is my heart's compassion to see our men healed. It's my heart's compassion to see our brothers healed, and for them to show up in a healthy way. It's a beautiful thing to see a spirit that is restored. And it breaks my heart to see a soul that has been shattered. And so, with that being said, I want to just say thank you to everyone being here. You guys are always troopers. And these are the needed conversations that are not talked about as much. And so this has been Own It Motivation Monday, motivational moments with the Own It team and family. And we just want to say thank you so much for being with us today. We love you and we are out.
Thank you.